Welcome to the FOLIO Roadmap and Prioritization Update for WOLFcon 2024. I'm Jesse Kennecke from Cornell University Library, and for the last couple of years, I've been part of the FOLIO Roadmap and Prioritization team that was charged as a temporary team by the FOLIO Product Council to put together a view of or views of the FOLIO roadmap of what's going on in FOLIO development, what's targeted, what does the future look like. And assuming I can advance my slides. So we formed that working group a couple of years ago. Last year, we presented for the first time our results, which were a view of a roughly 18-month roadmap of the FOLIO project, looking at as many of the different teams, development teams' work that's going on and plans for work that's going on, both at sort of high-level functional things like course reserves, as well as trying to facilitate people's view down into more of the details of what do we mean by, say, course reserve. And then we've also put together dashboards that can help with that, like being able to zoom in and zoom out of various different parts of the project. FOLIO is a complicated project. There are development teams that are working on different parts of it all around the world, influenced and being paid for by different entities, and trying to keep track of all that. It's not a thing that the teams are necessarily all collaborating with each other on. And so our roadmap team has been making inroads with each of the teams to try to, or each of the funding organizations, or wherever some of that decision making and planning for FOLIO comes together to try to build a bigger view of what is happening overall in the project. We also talked about then, and today we'll talk more about actually a pilot that went on for prioritizing in order to inform, when possible, those development teams of what the users, what the library users essentially are looking for most, either in new directions or in existing functionality changes. And then we'll talk about some challenges and some next steps coming up. And so our group formed 2022 to 2024. We'll talk a little bit about next steps later, about what we hope becomes of our group and the processes we've been working on. Here's the group that's been working on this, and it's been a great team. And I'm going to pass things off to, first I'm going to show you our charge. This is what we were told to do. So we think we've met all of these points in various different capacities, and Kristen Martin's going to start us off actually talking about the current 18-month roadmap that we have.
All right, hey folks. So this is the point in time when people who got special hats, like Jesse, can pull out their hats and put them on as the cone of uncertainty. So we thought we would try to have some fun, whether you're here in the morning or the afternoon, to discuss the roadmap. So Jesse, if you would be willing to advance the slides, that would be great. Or else if you want to give me control, I can do that too. So this is our 18-month plan, and these are the releases that are covered. At this point in time, FOLIO is coming out with new releases twice a year. And as you can see, the further out we try to get information and to predict what's going to be included, the less that we really know. So Ramson's is getting really set. That deadline is coming up. And Sunflower is going to be anticipated to come out in April of 2025. The deadline for scoping is not until the end of this week, so that is still not set. And then Trillium and Umbrella Leaf are really kind of twinkles in the eye, and this is an agile project. So it's hard to predict precisely what's going to happen. You know what, Jesse, why don't you let me share my screen, because I'm going to show a few things on the wiki, and that might be easier than telling you where to navigate. Okay. So this is from you should be seeing the wiki, and this is the releases home. So if you are ever looking for some more information, so Lesky Petrenko, who's the release manager, really manages this, and I highly recommend it. It's been a great source. And you can take a look at very detailed timelines. So you will see for Ramsons, there is a detailed timeline, and this is pretty set. Everything is obviously still up for a little bit of flexibility until the release is actually public. But right now, that date is December 16th. And down here is a view of the timeline in a table format, and you can see how these different releases also overlap. And so that's where I was saying, like for Sunflower, the scope composition of this is still being finalized, so we don't have as much information about that. And that overlaps with Ramson's. And then, you know, if you look at Sunflower here, there's going to be still a timeline, but it's a little more conjectural. And so these things can get updated. As of right now, we have March 31st, and that, you know, that might change. And this timeline also then overlaps with Trillium. And so that's going to get scoped and set in January. So all those are reasons why we have the cone of uncertainty. I'm going to go back over to the presentation here. Let me just get this back in slideshow mode. So there are a variety of teams that work on Folio, and I do have a link, this link here, and I think we're sharing this presentation through Sched. So this link here goes to the list of all the current and previous teams on Folio that's on the wiki. And then there's also another link here that goes to the kind of the team PO dev lead responsibility matrix. And this goes all the way to getting down to the module level. It's a kind of an intense table, but I actually find it really useful if you're looking at what's coming up at the module level or who's responsible for what. It takes a moment to load. So I'm just giving it a sec.
I know them.
So you can see it's spinning there. I probably should have pulled this up first. So here, you know, you can sort it by the JIRA project, you can sort it by team, you can see what modules they're responsible for. It also indicates when a module was released. So you can see what's been released in Quiznalia and Poppy. That information will kind of gradually fades out as that becomes less relevant. And then as we are currently approving new functionality in Ramson's, that's also going to go on there. All right, so let me go back to our slideshow. So our teams come from a variety of areas. EBSCO is the biggest funding contributor to Folio and really is managing our EPAM teams. And that covers what you would think of as being core ILS functionality like cataloging, acquisition, circulation. And so you probably know some of the names of these teams to be like Spitfire, Thunderbird, Firebird. They're all named after airplanes like fighter jets, Folijet and Vega. This group has also been working a lot on American consortial support and direct consortial borrowing. We have other groups that have come a lot building off of some functionality desired by the German consortia. So GBV and knowledge integration have the Bienenvolk team, pardon me, and that takes care of your agreements, ERM functionality, licenses, dashboards, and also has been working on serials management, including like the predictive check-in and SIF, which is GBV plus index data, is providing a connection for German consortia to their union catalog and being able to move metadata back and forth from Folio to the union catalogs. Also on the German side, we have Odin, which is Hebus plus index data, which is doing some add-ons for circulation and recently implemented reminder fees. There we go. So just some other examples of teams. So Leipzig has been a big contributor here, working also with knowledge integration, working on usage statistics, open access, a number generator, and I just recently learned this morning that they're doing some work in reporting for finance. So we have institutional teams from a variety of institutions and consortia. For example, Texas A&M, the Aggies, they have been working on the workflow app. Alabama has done calendars. There are teams that have picked up enhancements in various areas. And last, but certainly not least, I want to just give a shout out to individual developers that have come from multiple institutions and have really joined in with teams or picked up features and functionality where there's been need or interest. And we do have a new role of developer advocate. And that is Patrick Pace. And if you're not familiar, this is relatively recent. Patrick has been tracking his activities in the project, right, in these reports. So if you'd like to find out more, or you have somebody at your institution who you think would like to get more involved, that was one of the main reasons why we wanted this role in the community. So now I'm going to go to the roadmap, and this is also on the wiki, so I'm going to take a look at this. The link is in the presentation. So this, you can find this link also on the homepage of the wiki, and it is under the Product Council. You will see the lovely cone of uncertainty again. And then we try to have an 18-month outlook where we've highlighted the different areas of activity, sort of by general functional area, domain of expertise, if you like, although that is not an official name. And we've tried to work with the POs to understand what's upcoming that we can highlight. So you can see we have some cross-app work. I was really excited this morning to hear more about what's happening in the List app and doing financial reports. I think there's some great work going on there. Work with bulk edit, bringing on better compatibility with MetaDB under the LDP project. In acquisitions, we have a lot of enhancements to claiming, being able to display additional order information and inventory, bindery support, expanding integration. Circulations, there's improvements to request workflows, improvements for fines and fees, bringing title level requests to multi-volume series and continuing resources. ERM continues its work with GoKB, which is the global open knowledge base, and doing a rewrite of synchronization, reviewing searching, performance, more support for task lists and checklists for ERM workflows. There are some enhancements happening in the e-holdings area with the UX and with metadata. And with Counter shifting to 5.1, the e-usage app is going to support and improve its connection using Counter 5.1 data, which is a little different from previous Counter data. Metadata we have broken out into 4 big areas. We have a cataloging area where there has been work on MARC authority control linking and automated headings validation, search and browse improvements, including improvements to relevance. Improvements in in-app reporting. And most recently, the Product Council had a chance to look at some new functionality, new modules that are coming around to provide an enhanced MARC to instance mapping so that libraries aren't stuck with like a weeks-long project to update their MARC to instance mapping, and now that can be done sort of as part of an upgrade process, as well as built-in MARC validation in the Quick MARC editor. Data import continues to work on architectural workflow improvements and scaling. You may have also heard of what sometimes is called chunking, which kind of just makes me think that. And so splicing is the term I prefer about file partitioning. And there's also improvements in the business logic for multi-holding item support and improvements in MARC matching. Linked data is a big area, especially with the Library of Congress coming on board. They bring some, there's a pilot project right now with looking at BibFrame monograph copy cataloging workflows. There's also entity management for supporting authorized access points. providing exports into BibFrame 2.0 and in Mark, and then integration with Marva, and really providing more of a linked data enabled system. Data export, the last area under metadata, is got, again, improvements in performance and scaling, being able to handle suppressed fields from the export, providing better OAI PMH inventory harvesting and performance, supporting what to do about deleted records, and direct inventory export. So another big area that has come up and that came out in particular in Poppy and continues to be very heavy in the roadmap over the next 18 months is consortial support. And this will be support for reporting needs, enhancements across the functional areas to allow consortia to be able to work together in FOLIO, direct consortial borrowing, which did come out released with Poppy, and InReach 3 certification. If I scroll down here a little bit, you will also see some of the new apps that are coming out. We're loosely defining an app as kind of got a front end and a back end, and it's something that you see in the interface that you can interact with. So some things that have happened include our lists app, which allows for reporting across different folio areas, and so far has been getting an expanded list, expanded different record types available in it, direct consortial borrowing, which I mentioned. There's also a new app that was released called Service Interaction that so far provides a number generator, serials management, which was released with Quiznalia, and that provides publication patterns, predictive check-in and claiming for serials. And most recently, the Product Council approved the Reading Room app, which really should just probably be called Rooms, and it provides a mechanism to screen and review users to see if they should have access to restricted library spaces. So the initial use case was around reading rooms, but it could definitely get expanded beyond that. And coming up in the future, I mentioned that Texas A&M has been working on a workflow app, which will support the creation of workflows from the FOLIO UI, and will support interaction with active workflows across all FOLIO applications, as well as multiple workflow engine provider implementations. So this is a high-level overview, and I'm going to turn it over to Jen, who's going to share some information about dashboards that we have created so that you can really drill right down to individual features and issues either in your area of interest or for a particular release. And I don't know, Jen, if you would like to share to look at the dashboards.
Sure, I can do that.
And I do like your background.
Thank you. Like the cone of uncertainty. Okay, so the dashboards can almost make you feel less uncertain, but it's probably important to remember that they too, for all of their detail, are also predictions. So the product owners kind of do their best to make estimates and figure out when things are going to be released. But of course, things do change. So I'm just going to give a quick tour of an example roadmap. This is the one for metadata management. So because we have this change where now we're only doing 2 releases a year, the dashboard only represents 2 releases. So it represents kind of the next one that's coming and then one after that. So we just released Q. We're working on getting to R. So Ramson's is here. All of the dashboards right now, at least, are laid out the same way, where across the top there are features. So these are the metadata management features that are scheduled for Ramson's right now. This over here should be the metadata management features scheduled for Sunflower. As Kristen mentioned, the scope for Sunflower is not yet set. And so the PO has perhaps not put labels on all the features that will end up in Sunflower, or has not put, they most likely they've put the labels on, but they might not have put the Sunflower release on. But I will also check and just make sure that that's not a mistake. At any rate, features essentially translate to what we call in JIRA the UX prod project. So these are sort of a high level description of something that you want Folio to do. Like an example here is a place of publication index. So they want to be able to search on place of publication, working with instance notes and bulk edit. So it's kind of that top level, not the very top level because that would be an epic, but sort of a description of a feature that we want in Folio, being able to do things with dates. So that's what the top row of these roadmaps are. The second row are issues in the individual projects for the modules that make up the things we think of as apps in Folio. And what this mostly tells you is kind of the spread of modules. So you can sort of see that the most issues for Ramsons are in the UI for inventory and then the UI for bulk edit. And you might in your head, as you're sort of mapping these to areas, kind of ignore the UI versus mod and just say, okay, this is about bulk edit. If there's also, there doesn't seem to be any mod bulk edit here, but there is like a mod inventory. So these essentially, the UI inventory and mod inventory go together. So this pie chart is just kind of a high level overview of where the most activity is for that upcoming release. Whereas the features all come from that UX prod project, which is like a construct in Jira to hold all the features. These come from the projects in Jira across all the different modules. And what that means for you is that if you're in metadata management, you need to tell us what modules metadata management cares about. And then we can update these pie charts to make sure everything you're interested in is covered, especially as new things get added. And I guess that's the other thing I would just say to think about for the roadmaps is like, hopefully these are useful to you. And so you can talk about them in your SIG if there's some changes you'd like to see made or different things you'd like to see covered. You can also talk about them with the POs for the modules and apps that you're interested in, because they're the ones that like are applying the labels, applying the sort of speculation about when it's going to be released. If you let them know that like, yes, you're using this, they'll know that the effort to label things is like helpful and worthwhile. And it can just kind of be an ongoing conversation of what's useful to have in these roadmaps or these dashboards. We're going to work on further operationalizing this. Like right now we have it as a template. We have a set of people that are maintaining these dashboards, and we want to carry that forward. So there will be people continuing to work on this, people you can give feedback to. Product Council is really going to get this into a place where it can be consistently maintained. The only other dashboard that is sort of special on here, well, I guess there's a couple other. So we also have some links to the PO maintained dashboards. These are maintained mostly by Kalila. And then this one.
Sorry?
So like,
It's fine.
and then there's also a calendar here for the release, and that can be useful as well. There's one more dashboard here for unscheduled features, and this is just UX prods that have been created, but they haven't said what release they're going into. So if you're interested in what might need like some encouragement to get into the development cycle, you can see that on this dashboard. So I think that's it for the dashboards. Just please give us feedback if there's things that you'd like to see in there. We really want to make them useful to you.
Okay,
I guess.
I think I am back just briefly, and then I'll pivot back to Jesse. So one more thing just to show you on the roadmap page, so we also try to provide some information for any supporting documents. So if you are working in a SIG or with a group and you have come up with your own more detailed roadmap, we will provide a link here if we know about it. So if you're like, hey, you know what, we have a roadmap like this, or maybe we haven't published it yet and we would like to share it, we would be very grateful to be able to help compile all that information together, and we will probably put this year's presentation down here as well. So going back over to our slideshow. All right, we've talked about the dashboards, move through that. So one other thing that our group worked on this year was prioritization. And we used to have a prioritization method, which some of you may remember, where in JIRA you can see every institution that was going to be implementing FOLIO went through everything and tried to indicate if it was a P1, like we had to have it to go live, to a P5 of like we would never use that feature under pain of death. And that was great when it was like 10 institutions, but as you saw the numbers this morning with hundreds of FOLIO institutions now implemented, we can't really track things that way anymore. And we did work on another pilot. There was another group that considered some other software to help with prioritization processes, but it was very complicated for a large open source project where we didn't want to have to pay per seat or have necessarily people that would have to do a lot of extra work to compile things. So one of the projects that came forth out of the acquisition SIG, and thanks to also to Joe Reimers and Dennis Bridges, there's been a page, and it's been around for a long time, that's called Acquisitions Implementers Topics. And people over the years really have added their desirable features on here. And it's a giant table. And as things get completed, they move off this table as they get discussed or decisions get made on them. More information gets added, and you'll see there's like 140 some. And actually, the acquisition SIG has managed to talk about almost all of these. It's been a recurring topic. Within JIRA, now individuals can vote on their interest in this feature. So like if I'm clicking on this one feature here, and institutions can say like, oh, you know what, we really, like somebody said at one point, hey, we'd like to be able to submit orders via an automated email integration. Now, we talked about it in the acquisition SIG, the PO then created this ticket for it to explain it. And this information is here, and then individuals can vote on it. You can see this has 28 votes yes, which is a pretty good number. And so everybody who's voted on it is on here. It hasn't actually been a feature that's been that much of interest here at the University of Chicago, so we have not voted for it. But if I wanted to, I can just click here and vote for it. So it's a really lightweight way of indicating interest. And then if there's extra capacity in the team, or as they're starting to scope out for the next releases and figuring out time, they can take some of these areas that are of heavy interest and bring them to the development teams, or another institutional developer team might say, oh, you know what, people really want to do this, and we have some capacity to pick this up, so we can go ahead and implement it. So it's pretty easy. And so far, it's just really been put into this project with acquisitions implementers topics, but we definitely would like to see it expanded. And I know there are similar wish lists that are out there in like the lists app, bulk edit, or data import. It's just a matter, you know, there is some work involved because they do need to get into JIRA. But one of the great things about it is it's an existing tool. The product owners are already in there. It's lightweight, simple to implement. And then that prioritization data is right there on the ticket. And, you know, like looking back, oops, wrong. Like, so looking back, you know, you can see the votes really easily. And you can see this is kind of the old school system, but nobody's really ranked this because this did not exist in like 2020 and 2021. So that's easy. Now, you know, when we've talked about this in the past, everybody always brings up, but an institution could add multiple votes. So that is absolutely true. If you wanted to get like 10 people and they all had Jira, you know, Confluence accounts, and they all wanted to vote for something to try to make it look super important, you could do that. That has not really happened in practice. I think most of us have worked as, you know, kind of had a designated voter, and it would also be kind of obvious if you like look at the list and you would see, oh, the University of Chicago really tried to stack the deck on this one. It is a little tricky to know when new issues get out there, so that's something where, you know, we just have to periodically check or remind ourselves with the SIGs, like, hey, these are new implemented issues that we've talked about in the last 3 months. People can go ahead and vote on those. And as a reminder, voting doesn't mean it's going to get done. It's not like it's just a list and you say like, oh, this one has 30 votes, this one has 15 votes, so we're definitely going to do the 30 vote one. There's various reasons why different features get implemented. Sometimes they're enabling, sometimes there's a customer involved who's paying for it. And so all those things also go into consideration about what can get implemented when. Okay, so that's prioritization. Jesse is going to wrap things up for us.
Yes, let me get our stuff. Okay, next steps. So there was a lot. First of all, there was a lot there. A lot of it was pretty small on the front screen here. Part of that is because this is a pretty complicated project with a lot of moving parts going on. And your best bet for being able to look more closely at that is to go to wiki.folio.org and search for roadmap. You'll come to that roadmap page, which can link off to all of these different things we've been talking about today. And you can explore there and get lost or found, depending on what it is you're hoping for. And some next steps for our team for this work really in the short term are to formalize the updating these tools that we've put together with the product council and the broader community. One of the product council's charge statements is to maintain the community roadmap or the Folio product roadmap essentially, and that's what we've been showing you today. And we want to, as our working group passes that back to the product council, we want to make sure we're engaging with all the right parts of the community to do that as effectively and forward thinking as we can. What we also want to look for as we do that is more roadmaps. There's development going on that isn't reflected yet in these. We'd love to have the relationships with dev teams and POs and others where we can surface that information, or funding organizations. This is what we want, and we're putting X dollars into this, and we've got a dev team working on it. Can you tell us what those goals are and what it is you're shooting for, and so we can surface that information for the rest of the community. And looking for any opportunities where we can streamline this process, make it as robust as possible while being something we can keep up. Expanding on prioritization, spreading, whether it's that prioritization effort or what, getting more prioritization in the process. As we said, the prioritization that we like voting for things doesn't necessarily mean it gets done, but we do get told. The dev teams will look if they've got some way of knowing an importance level across their particular user base, whether that's conversations with a SIG or assuming their PO has been having those conversations and is lining that work up. any way we can surface that prioritization can help them when they are looking at what to work on next in particular functionality. And that's what we want to be able to do with prioritization. And we'll be working with the PC on trying to build that out more and just build more connections. This work ties really into the release management cycle and really working with the folks that do release management planning. We want to be able to essentially have our roadmap reflect out as far as we can with any degree of code of uncertainty value of equal to X. We'll see what we can do. And other related processes that are going on in the project to make sure we're as useful as possible for anyone trying to find information. Longer term is what will the impact of sort of the application formalization process or revamp of a lot of folio architecture and things. What will that mean for our work? Presumably it will mean a rewrite of a lot of how we're looking at these things. But we want to be able to also show what we're moving towards on the roadmaps. And now we want to have some discussion and feedback. We've got about 15 minutes for any questions, both I see one online and let's start with that. Martin, do you want to unmute and ask your question? Or do we have a question in the room first? Or comment?
When I look at the roadmap, I see a lot of new functionality and new apps that are introduced in all the new flowers. Has there been any thought about that one of the upcoming flower releases shouldn't have any new features or lists or apps just to have bug fixes?
That's a good question. That is something that gets talked about fairly often. We've never quite managed to do that where a release is limited really to fixing bugs within existing applications. And with currently 2 releases a year, I don't know, that might be a hard sell in some of the project, but I'm probably not the best expert on that. I don't know, Kristen, if anything in release management or any other groups, if anybody's got any thoughts on that question.
We have not specifically limited any releases to no new functionality except for bug fixes. We have in the past taken okay, let's slow down and take restock. We have also talked about trying to have a bigger release versus a smaller release. I would say we've done a lot of experimentation with how to try to manage the releases to make it work best for the whole community. I think the big change that will be impacting the roadmap is going to be the work that's happening towards a Eureka platform that may help make Folio a little less monolithic. This roadmap right now really reflects a current flower release pattern where you get a whole flower release and that's the way it comes. I can see, as we've been talking about things, and I'd encourage you to go to some sessions on Eureka and application formalization to learn more about the status of that and how that could impact the roadmap or impact releases.
Thank you, Kristen. There is a question in chat. Hi, thank you for the presentation. With regards to MARC matching improvements, is this to match for duplicate instance records on inventory before importing records? Maybe Jen or someone in the room, do you know the answer to that?
So I'm not sure about that exact issue. I wonder a little bit about what you're asking exactly. If you're not already in the data import Slack channel, I would encourage you to join. If the times of the data import subgroup and the data import lab aren't good for you, people do answer Slack questions all the time, because this sounds like something we could possibly give you some advice on. the mark matching, I believe, is more about being able to do more complex matching as opposed to like having one record match two things, if that's what you mean. So anyway, I think the data import channel is a better place to get a specific answer for that app.
Any other questions online or in the room? All right. Well, thank you very much for coming to our.
Jesse,
Oh, yes.
can we ask a question of the room that I am curious about? And maybe this would go online, but how many people knew about this roadmap before today?
Show of hands shows about a third, maybe in there, a third to a half in the room. And online, what are we looking at?
Yeah, it looks pretty similar online,
Yep.
maybe. Yeah, I think, as we're trying to make this be as useful as possible to the community. So the more input we get, both from the community and from different POs and developers for how this can help people using Folio, the better I think we can make it. It's been a work in progress, but we don't have to just do it for ourselves. We do want to make it be something that people in the community can look at and have a sense of what's going on, be able to know what's not getting worked on that they could pick up, and be able to know the cadence of the current release cycles and where maybe their pet project or long needed functionality could be coming.
Right. Any last, we have time for a couple more questions if people have them, or we can get snacks. I don't know if there are snacks out there right now.
I still see a couple of hands up. I don't know if they're just from the voting or if people have questions online.
This is not a question, but more of a comment following Larry's question about releases that are only focused on bug fixes. So I think we have a couple of tools in place. One is critical service patches. And so if there are critical issues that are uncovered in between Flower releases, then this is a mechanism that is used to address those. But longer term, I think there are probably better ways of how we do testing. And the community, it would be highly encouraged for the community to participate in testing throughout the development lifecycle. And the community can help in a number of different ways. One is participate in the UATs. Each of the development teams is setting up UAT environments which provide an option for anyone wanting to test out particular functionality long before it's been released. And this is an opportunity to be able to test functionality using institution-specific workflow. Is not, when we get to the bug fest and when we do integration testing, not every workflow is represented in that testing. It's simply not possible. And that's why it's another way how institutions can contribute is create additional test cases that are based on their specific workflows and log them in TestRail. Another option how institutions can help is by providing their anonymized data sets that can be used early on by development teams throughout their testing. Anonymized data sets that preserve patterns. Because a lot of issues that are uncovered when we do upgrade people to a new version are related to data. In fact, about 30% of issues that are uncovered are due to institution-specific data. And so if institutions can provide anonymized data sets to the community so that development teams can use those early on in their testing, that would be very helpful. And as a result, we will all be in nirvana, which is bug-free.
And Masood, I see your hand raised online. Did you have a question, or was that raised from the question we asked before? All right, one last question.
Thank you, Jesse. I have a question about artificial intelligence. So does the community consider any AI strategy or AI plan in the roadmap? Thank you.
So does the community have any plans to introduce AI strategy into the roadmap? So I don't think the roadmap and prioritization team does, but I'd be interested in hearing if there are any dev teams represented or POs who might know if and where there may be any AI strategies finding their way into the project. Or is that a question to ponder between now and the next WOLFcon? Mark has the answer.
Well, so AI can be used in a couple of different ways. One is to improve the workflows that are being employed by the end users. Another in the development cycle. And our EPAM teams, and there are a few representatives here from the EPAM team, they are starting to use AI to help out with development. Things like creating different test cases, creating additional automated end-to-end tests, and so on. So as a result, it improves their throughput and output by 10-15% or so.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, I'm Jeremy Nelson at Stanford University, and yesterday we led a workshop on using AI. Particularly, there's in the FOLIO labs a couple of repositories there. One is what we're calling Edge AI, that adds in some AI functionality. Primarily right now, you can prompt using like a large language model, and it'll generate a stub instance inventory record and ingest it into FOLIO, sort of as a proof of concept. I think we're trying to be adding, or at least providing a playground so to explore some of these technologies. So if you're interested, yeah, that's it. You can email me at jpnelson@stanford.edu.
Well, so, and it'll be interesting as more and more work between Folio and AI tools happens, or integrating pieces in, if that does start to surface in Folio code in ways that we would want to start to see in a roadmap, like things that we as the users of Folio might interact with and things like that. And I look forward to seeing what we all come up with and can put together. But we are at time for this edition of the Folio Prioritization and Roadmap Working Group tour, and we will see you all over the next couple of days.